We love stories. Human beings love stories. Public speaking and storytelling are one. We will always love storytelling. And so as long as storytelling lives, which I think it will live on until the end of time, public speaking will live.
That was Shil Shanghavi. Shil is a public speaker, a public speaking expert, and has coached hundreds of people through his career, including TEDx speakers, entrepreneurs, and creators. The thing about Shil is that he has a significant case of stutter, and despite that, he has built a career in public speaking. Now, I know this podcast is about creators, so why do I have a public speaking expert on the show? Because I believe when we create, whether it's a video, a podcast, or anything that requires us appearing online, we deploy very similar characteristics to that of public speaking. Shil is based in Perth, Australia, and I've had the privilege and good fortune of seeing him speak and also seeing him build his business called Chatterbox Public Speaking from the ground up. Now, this is a bit of a curveball compared to the rest of my episodes, but if you're a creator, trust me, there's a lot of gems on this one. Here, Shil and I talk about the fear of creating publicly, what the internal challenges creators face, and how to cope with them when we appear on a public sphere. Finally, after a year of publishing the episodes, I am finally concluding the Perth series of the podcast. The reason being that doing the podcast physically here has really restricted my ability to churn the episodes out on a regular basis. So I've decided that I'll be doing them digitally, which will help me do them more frequently. I've already started recording for season 3, so it's coming faster than you think. For everyone who's stuck with me so far, you know I appreciate it as always. I do see your numbers at the back end, so it's great to see that you guys are coming back. And if you're watching this on YouTube, do give it a thumbs up and leave a comment if you want. And finally, for access to my occasional creative newsletter, do sign up on www.tausivakas.com. Without further ado, here is State of the Creators Season 2, Episode 10, featuring Shil Shanghavi. Hope you enjoy the show. This is the State of the Creators, a show about creative individuals who are on a quest to build something out of nothing. There's water for you if you need it. I know I will.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, bro. It's a hot day today, man. It's the hottest. I'm drenching as well. It's
I was going to wear a gym shirt,
yeah,
a singlet, and I thought maybe that's too much.
I mean, you've got the biceps to show.
Maybe that's too much.
You've got the biceps to show off of. So I don't think anybody would have been too upset with it. But it's a great day outside. Bit hot, but it is what it is.
It's too hot, man.
No.
Can I pour this down my back?
You can, if you really want to.
The problem is I have white shorts, and then my ass will get wet. And
I mean, again, you've got the goods to showcase. I don't think anybody would.
Dude, no more about the goods.
As you can tell, I don't have an intro.
I like that.
And that's because I think too many intros make it a bit boring, jaded, long.
Robotic.
But by now, because I don't have any intro in any of my episodes, my regular listener, for them, this is now boring because none of them are, I don't have any intro. So they're like, I'm sure some of them are like...
I much prefer that you don't have an intro because intros are robotic. It sounds the same. It's formulaic.
Yeah.
And so I much prefer...
Going straight into the conversation, before anything else, it's pretty... I think I know the answer, but why Chatterbox? Why specifically calling your brand Chatterbox?
Because for so long I've been so afraid to speak. I considered myself to be a mute. Whilst I wasn't completely a mute, I could still speak and express myself. I used to stutter so much that I considered that as being someone who's afraid of speaking. As opposed to now, somebody who has the courage to speak, and in that process, I've become a chatterbox.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And it's super interesting, your story. Like your, I remember going to the one last year, and parts of the talk that you gave actually gave me chills. Especially the way you craft your like pauses, and that's, yeah. Overall, your story is really, really fascinating, and I want to dive more into especially the fact that you have a very significant stutter in your day to day life, and you do something that is exactly supposed to stop it as your career, but despite that, you do what you do, and I want to get more into that. But talk to me about your early life, right? So you moved to Australia when you were younger, pretty much like myself. What was the journey like? Like, why Australia? What was life like before Australia? And if there were any inkling of public speaking throughout that process. Actually, let's talk about moving to Australia first, right? What was the journey like?
First, very exciting, and then terrifying.
Why?
Because
I
I
mean, exciting new
realized
life.
exciting
Yeah.
because I was 15. For those who listen, I will stutter from time to time.
Yeah.
Please don't edit those out.
Of course not.
And if it impacts the listeners, it is how it is.
It is how it is. Yeah. And I know for a fact that they'll stick around.
I do my best to control it. However, I sometimes do stutter. When I first arrived, I was 15. I was excited because as a 15-year-old, I was away from my parents. And I thought, no responsibility. I can do fucking anything.
Freedom.
Can we swear?
You can swear.
Great. I can do anything. However, that quickly turned to fear because I realized I didn't know anyone. I had no friends. I had no network. I had no support. So my first few years were really hard because I was bullied and teased a lot in school, which affected my confidence. I carried my lack of confidence to university, which was even harder because I struggled to communicate and speak. So people didn't accept me, and they bullied me and teased me a lot in university. I had a group of friends, of course. However, I didn't see them all the time. It was rare that I saw my friends in uni. I was often with other people who I didn't know. That was difficult. And when I left, I had job interviews, networking, presentations. And so it's been really difficult because when you can't say your name, life is challenging.
And from that to becoming a public speaking expert, so that's quite the story. Do you think you would have become a public speaking professional or an expert or chosen a line in this career if it wasn't for those difficult moments?
No,
So you think those made you who you are today?
absolutely.
Would you change anything about your history?
Nope, not a thing. I have done some really stupid things. I have made really bad decisions. I have hurt a lot of people. I've hurt myself. I've hurt friends, family. I would change the times where I intentionally did things which weren't very smart. I would change those because I've never felt good about it. So, for example, my wife wouldn't mind me talking about this. I used to date this girl she was a really good person. Good home, good heart, good upbringing. And she dated me at a time of my life where I was a dick. And I treated her like shit. That is something I wish I didn't do.
Yeah, and of course.
I wish I didn't do that because people like that didn't deserve
Right.
who I was at the time. However, I've had so many challenging and bad experiences, I wouldn't change any of them because if it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am.
What changed in those, in that journey that made you realize, you know what, I got to stop being a dick?
Not only seeing how it was affecting other people, seeing how other people were thinking about who I was, and it's hard to explain this very clearly, and this will sound so cliche. However, when you look at yourself, you know the sort of person you are. In your gut, in your heart, you know the sort of person you are. And then when you can see and feel you're doing things which are not the person you are,
Right.
it's very hard to shake that off. There's a guilt inside you which is very hard to shake off, and it's a guilt which stays with you. And I didn't want that guilty feeling anymore.
This went deep real quick, but overall...
It did, didn't it?
It did. It was straight up. It's like, whoa.
Shit.
We're talking like, almost like a therapy session.
I was thinking, this feels like a therapy session.
Most podcasts are like that because, you dive deep into your personal stuff, and I try to make it that way as well. But overall, it seems like your early life wasn't as, straightforward and smooth. But throughout those like that journey, obviously you mentioned that you were scared of communicating. Bullying didn't help, obviously. But were there any inklings of that, you had this urge to break out of that shell, or you actually had any practice of public speaking at any, like, where you, I don't know, the host of school events or anything like that? Usually you'd get, like someone who's an artist had like music stuff when they were kids and stuff like that.
Well, there are... I've never had an inkling to do it, ever.
Okay.
Speaking to one person is scary. Never had an inkling. And there was one more part to your question. You asked me...
Yeah, like, do you actually have any events that you kind of, like how some people host, like, little things and stuff like that?
Not specifically. However, I've been learning to speak since I was 10 years old.
Right.
My stutter started since we've tracked it to when I was around the 10-year-old mark. And so because of that, since that age, what a lot of people don't know is when I was a kid in school, on the playground, I would go and play marbles, and I'd be too scared to play with the other kids because if I said something wrong or if I did something wrong, they would tease me because of my stutter.
Right.
And so I would go and sit on my own and think of ways to say what I want to say without stuttering.
Right.
So since then, I was practicing in my mind, how can I say these words without making a fool of myself?
It's super fascinating because public speaking, when I think of it, and I don't obviously do it at the same degree as you, but presentations and stuff like that is a form of public speaking.
No, it is public
speaking.
What us two are doing now is public speaking.
Yeah, and I want to get more into that, but there are two, at least in my mind, two parts to it, where there's the psychological angle, and then there's the actual execution where the words are coming out of your mouth. And it seems like throughout that, early years, you were almost accidentally or subconsciously, you were working towards the psychological part so much over the last 30, 25 years or so on. Now you've just been mastering that execution end.
And spot on.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm 39 now.
Yeah.
In fact, in a month's time, I'm 40. In a month's time, I'm 40.
A day over 30.
In a month, I'm 40.
That's fantastic.
Thanks, man. I've got a few grays, though. I have, unbeknown to me, been practicing and refining and fine-tuning since I was 10.
Right.
And what it's taught me is, ever since I was a kid, whenever I stuttered, whenever I couldn't get my words out or mispronounced anything, people would react to me in a particular way.
Right.
So if the two of us are having a conversation and I get stuck, you would break eye contact. You would do things instinctively because of the discomfort you felt through observing me stuttering. Because unless you've experienced it, you don't know how to handle it. You don't know how to react to it. What I didn't realize is those changes in your facial expressions and your body language and your gestures were teaching me how to read human behavior since I was a kid.
Fantastic, yeah.
since I was a kid, I've learned to read people. I've learned to understand why you flick your hair out a certain time, why you sit with your hands out and you've clasped them the way you do, why you wear your watch on your right hand. Very few people wear their watch on their right hand.
Interesting.
So I've learned to read and understand the psychology behind all of this and human behavior.
It's almost like a mini Sherlock.
You could say that.
So for those for those people who are listening, don't know who Shil is today, how would you describe yourself? Who is Sheila Shanghavi?
A dude who's doing something which terrifies him.
Even after 3 years.
I never stop being scared of it.
Because
I always feel I will stutter. And I always
and
feel
you do, though. That's the thing. And despite that, it hasn't stopped you. And I think that's fantastic. So you are dealing with it to a degree. So and in fact, I was gonna get more into this, but later in the show. But like there's the saying that the fear of public speaking is more than the fear of death, spiders, and something else, which. And I think was like 70% of the overall population has anxiety over public speaking, which is fascinating, right? Obviously, I've done a bit of getting on stage and doing stuff, and I remember getting the nerves, which is general. But for you to keep getting it still, and for humans to feel, why do you think that's the case? Like why are so many people scared of public speaking?
The older we get, the more we are concerned about ego, reputation, credibility, what people think, what people say. There's a fear of failure. There's a fear of judgment. There's a fear of not being liked. There's a fear of not being respected. Everybody wants to be liked. Nobody wants to make a fool of themselves, especially in front of other people. When we're kids, and we learn to walk, or when we learn to ride a bike, how many times did we fall the first time we took a step? How many times did we fall off a bike the first time we tried to ride a bike? Hundreds. Maybe not hundreds, plenty of times. Now, if we try to learn public speaking and we fall and we make a fool of ourselves, we care because we're more conscious, we're more aware of what people think, why they think that, and we don't want to look silly. We don't want to look like we don't know what we're saying or that we're not important. And so it's an ego, it's judgment, it's credibility, and when that happens, we panic. When we panic, our system starts to shut down and we make irrational decisions. Our mind starts to race. It activates, it activates a part of us which kicks us into fight or flight. We want to flight. We want to get away from the situation and not do it. And that clouds our mind. When it clouds our mind, we can't think straight. The words to Eminem, in Lose Yourself. Have you heard that song? The introduction to Eminem's song? His palms are sweaty. His knees go weak. His arms are heavy. He feels like he wants to throw up his mom's spaghetti, even though on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. Those words describe public speaking.
For you, the fear, though, do you think a lot of it is coming because, over the 3 years you have built a reputation for yourself, right? And with each passing talk to each member of the crowd, new faces, and you are building, yourself further and further. Do you think your fear now is more of, it's actually being amplified because you're getting quote unquote bigger, and it doesn't go away even if you do it more and more? Like it's almost like being a celebrity. Obviously, I'm not saying you're selling out your Madison Square Garden. Hopefully, one day you will. But like comparing that kind of in the same vein, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think that fear comes for you from that?
Yes, it does. I was talking about this over lunch. My lunch before this podcast today, an hour ago before this podcast, we spoke about this exact thing. And I said to my friend Beth, who very kindly took me out to lunch today, that what drives my fear, or part of my fear today, is pressure. And I hope this doesn't sound arrogant in any way. When I now get introduced for a talk, from the moment it's announced on social media to people coming into the room to the MC announcing it, they put me on a pedestal and they announce me with so much gravitas and credibility that I listen to what they're saying and I think to myself, holy shit, they're talking about me. I tell my wife this. She was in the audience 2 weeks ago, and when we got home, I asked her, did you hear the way they introduced me? And she said, it's unbelievable. And I felt so much pressure from that, because you're talked up to be this amazing speaker. And then I get on stage, I feel hot, my anxiety's high, I'm an anxious person. My panic kicks in, I have to control my stutter. I have to not be distracted by the people in the audience who are frowning or sitting like this, or maybe they don't look interested, or someone's on their phone. And I start sweating, and I can't concentrate on the sweat because I need to focus on my finger tapping. I can't stutter because I've got the musical beat that's playing in my head. And I'm coordinating so much. It's really hard at times to focus on everything and cope with the pressure.
And delivering a speech or a talk that's better than the last one.
What the fuck?
That I think that's where that's what I thought, because for others, getting on presentation and stuff like that is simply, or not simply, but more like, okay, some people might laugh at me, but I think once you get to your level, it's more like keeping up, making your talk better than the last one. And I think a lot of this podcast is for creators, who are aspiring to, do stuff online, and for artists and creatives. And I think it's very similar to them or us as well, where when you put a piece of content out, those who do it as their profession, not so much, posting stuff on the regular, but coming up with a documentary or a film or a music, I think similar pressures that I gotta deliver better than what I did the last time.
Yes, there's always a pressure to be better than the last time.
Yeah.
And my last talk, I made 4 mistakes. In my next talk, I will not make those 4 mistakes.
Do people pick up on those mistakes?
Never.
So it's more of holding yourself accountable to yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Always. I said never. I'll change that answer to very rarely do people pick up on my mistakes.
Does it bother you when somebody comes to you and say, like you should have done that better?
No, I would love that.
Right.
No, what really bugs me? When you go to an event, and this happened not long ago, I was one of 3 speakers. Putting aside, I look at presentations with a critical eye. Very critical eye. Putting that aside, the presentations weren't good. It was death by PowerPoint. They were boring. The speakers were nervous. I feel sorry for them because they were so nervous. They were not engaging. People were falling asleep. Yet some of the audience went up to the presenters and said, that was amazing.
Right.
That was fantastic. Great job. And I think to myself, no, you're doing them a disservice by saying that.
Right.
Because then if my talk is exceptional and you come up to me and you say, that was amazing, was it? Or are you saying that because it's the right thing to say?
Right.
So I would much prefer somebody come up to me and say, here are 3 things which I thought you could have done better.
Right.
Genuinely, I would much prefer that.
I want to dive a bit deeper into how you manage all these little nuances of public speaking, especially with the stutter that you have, right? Has it gotten worse or better for you? Because I hear that for many people it gets either as they grow older. And second of all, what have you done to manage that part of your life?
It's gotten better and worse. And I know that doesn't answer your question specifically, so I'll explain. It's gotten better because I've learned how to control it more.
Right.
I can have a conversation with you now.
Yeah.
To have a conversation with you or to present, I exert hyper control, and my brain thinks fast. So at any moment, while you and I are speaking, I'm applying 8 different techniques to stay fluent. If any of these techniques don't align at exactly the right time, at exactly the right place, in exactly the right way, I stutter. And so the opportunity cost, or the double-edged sword of controlling it, is my brain gets so tired that because of it, my stutter gets much worse.
Right. So you have to really book yourself, like, give yourself the space and time to recoup that energy.
After this, I'll be shattered.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'll be shattered, man. I will go home, switch off for half an hour, 40 minutes,
Yeah.
and go to the gym.
Right. And are there like times when you specifically don't talk?
Yeah.
Like
Every night.
Does your wife join you in that action? Like just stay quiet.
She understands.
Of course.
I take plenty of non-talking time.
As
mornings. How do I manage it? I meditate.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
I watch my diet. I train 6 days a week.
Mm.
The gym is my sanctuary.
Yeah.
You look after your body, you look after your mind. I take 2 cold showers a day.
Mm.
And when you have a cold shower, no matter how many times you do it, you always feel like you've been kicked in the... I was going to say balls. Let's say stomach.
We can say balls.
Kicked in the stomach.
Which one hurts more?
You've been kicked in the guts and you can't breathe. And so it teaches you how to breathe.
Right.
I listen to music a lot. I listen to progressive house music, progressive breaks, because it's got a 4 to the floor beat, and the beat keeps me fluent.
Do you think the similar kind of techniques can be applied by, someone who gets anxiety in public speaking? Do these techniques help?
Yep.
Is that what you advise to your clients or your team who gets your advice?
Yep. It can. It can be applied. It can be learned by anyone. If I learned it, it's a skill. It's a skill which can be taught and it can be learned. The challenge is rewiring our brains to think about it like that. For example, while you are talking to me now, do you play the music in your mind and then time your speech to the music you're playing in your mind?
No.
Okay. To do that takes years of training.
Right.
You would need to train your mind to play music and then understand how to tap your fingers and coordinate your fingers with the music in a way that allows you to speak to a 4 to the floor beat, which can be slowed down or sped up. I can teach it.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend the time to learn it?
Is this something you kind of came up with your own? Is this or more of a regular technique? Right. Wow.
I came up with that on my own.
Right.
Music, house music, when I listen to it, it calms me.
Mm.
And so I figured if it calms me, why not speak to it? Except I can't speak fast because that's what house music does.
Yeah.
So I learned to adjust the beat to house music in my mind.
Yeah.
And in order to keep my mind distracted, I tap my fingers. That's all something I learnt. The formula of doing that is something I developed on my own.
We spoke about what public speaking is to a degree, but a lot of the creators, when they have to create content, they have to do like a talking head kind of video, or even this, going out to the world is technically speaking to a certain group of people. Any sort of broadcasting yourself into the world does fall more or less under public speaking. So a lot of creators do have to get used to that. Even though they don't get the same stage fright that's getting literally on stage, a lot of the people are still, don't have that habit or they want to do it, they can't do it because they're scared of certain things, right? First of all, there's two parts to the question. How important do you think it is for a content creator to learn public speaking? And number two, how can they overcome those little nuances of not being able to do so?
I think it is an essential skill. It's a critical skill. Content creation now is about putting our thoughts and ideas out there via podcasting, so via audio, means like Clubhouse. That's a form of content creation. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And one of the most powerful ways now to connect with an audience is through video. Would you agree?
Yeah.
As a content creator?
Yeah.
The video is important. So teaching yourself how to speak on camera, how to control your pace, your eye contact, your vocal variety, how to be natural on camera is not a natural thing to do. It's not a skill we are taught. It's something we need to teach ourselves. All of that forms public speaking. And we record a video for 30 seconds, put that onto Instagram or onto LinkedIn or TikTok. That video could be seen by 500,000 people, 1 million people. That's a massive audience to be speaking to. That audience then watches you. They look at your style, your pace, your speaking, and whether we like it or not, we judge people on how we present and how we come across. So how important is it? It's really important. And I feel it should become more important, or rather it should maintain its importance, because the world is now so tuned into digital. The world is so tuned into social media platforms, into podcasting platforms, that because of it, we are, in some cases, we're losing the face-to-face interaction with people. We would rather have a Snapchat call or a WhatsApp call and speak to each other via camera or Zoom than we would going out to an event and going to meet people in person. Tinder's a classic example of this. We would rather sit at home. I'm not saying everybody. Most people, not most, some people would rather stay home and swipe through. It's an easy way to meet than actually go to a bar, walk up to a male or female or a non-binary person and say hello to them.
Right.
Because it's a nerve-wracking thing to do. So how important is it? It's very important. We must keep developing our communication ability.
So for someone who wants to do it, but always, get stuck or feel scared, how do you think they should go ahead?
Which is part two of your question.
That's right.
You said the word overcome.
Yes.
I don't believe the nerves can be overcome.
Right.
Mark Twain once wrote, there are two types of speakers: those who are nervous and those who are liars.
Yeah.
No matter how accomplished we get, we will always feel nervous. This morning, before I left home, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I recorded 3 videos, 3 pieces of content. For all 3, I was nervous speaking into camera. And what I do is something I encourage everybody to do. First, breathe. Take a few deep breaths and calm yourself down. 2, speak slowly. When we get nervous, we speak fast. Take your time, slow down. When you listen to somebody who speaks slowly, there's more authority, there's more gravitas, there's more confidence in what they're saying. And the third thing is keep it simple. We like to use big words and big jargon. Ask yourself, what is the simplest way for me to get this message across?
How do you stay frugal with the choice of your words? Because this is something I've picked up, in one of your talks, is you could have said it in a lot of ways, but you're very, very intentional about the use of the specific, words, or in certain parts of a sentence, you choose certain words, right? Is there, a long-winded preparation for it, or is it usually something you kind of build a knack for?
It's something you train yourself to do more over time. However, by stopping, taking a breath, pausing and thinking about what you want to say, you can consciously choose to simplify what you say. I will always choose to go down the simplest route.
Right.
I will always see in my head what is the quickest and most efficient way to get this across. There was a section in our conversation today where you had to cut me off and bring me back on track. I'm annoyed at myself with that because it's not like me to ever go off track like that. I work very consciously and very hard to keep myself on track.
I think it happens to the best of us. So
It does. However, I've trained myself to think that way.
A little bit of tangent here, but talk to me about haters, right? There's one video you recently did, which kind of caught my attention, and I don't mean to say there are, people who genuinely would kind of punch you in the street if they see you, but when it comes to digital, it seems like that's all they want to do, right? As you grow bigger as well, with more credibility, gravitas, and everything else, comes that other side of things, and a lot of content creators have to deal with that, right? Negative comments on not constructive criticism and stuff like that. Now that you've kind of been getting a few here and there, how do you deal with that? And I guess for anyone listening in, how do you, advise that they should deal with it as well?
If you are getting into content creation, it will happen. Whether it's once or 10 times or 100 times, it will happen because there are people in this world with nothing better to do. There are people who will be angry, feel jealous, not like you. There's a number of reasons why. If it happens to you, the approach that I take is if it's somebody local, for example, if it's somebody in Perth, I will always ask that person if they would like to meet me face to face for a coffee.
Right.
My shout. If it's interstate, i.e. around Australia or internationally, Amelia will always offer to set up a Zoom call for 20 minutes so we can have a discussion about why they think or feel the way they do.
Right.
So my approach or my advice would be, face it, ask them to talk to you. I'd love to understand
and
why.
have you done any of those so far?
No one's ever taken me up on it.
Right.
And I've now had hundreds of trolls.
Right.
No one's taken me
Everybody
up
shies
on
away
it.
when you kind of confront them. Yeah.
Admittedly, we haven't responded to a lot of the trolls. However,
Right.
the ones we have, no one's ever come back to me.
I think because the ones that do would have at least some form of constructive, thing to provide when they do face, but most don't. That's the thing.
If somebody watches the documentary or a talk of mine or sees a piece of content I've created and they choose to tease me because I stuttered in that particular piece of content or that part of the movie, I want to understand why they've teased me. What drove you to feeling that way? I'd love to hear from you. I will not be mad. I will not take offense to it. I simply want to understand why.
And so far, it's been a blank.
Zero.
Yeah. That's. I think content creators get the same thing on the daily. Like the biggest of the biggest.
Let me ask you this: I've seen 2 pieces of your content, and I think they are. I'm really selective with my language, so the word I use here has been chosen specifically. I think they are extraordinary.
Appreciated.
Extraordinary. They are so clever in their thinking, in their concept, in their execution, in the idea. So you had the Netflix one, and then you also had the FIFA, the music behind FIFA. I'm a football fan, so I am biased towards that type of content. However, most people in the world are football fans. So I would argue that most people would love those 2 pieces of content. Have you ever had trolls from those?
I wouldn't say trolls, but
or any of the pieces of content.
Yeah, actually, the one with the Netflix one, when we posted it on Reddit, There were people who were like, oh, I just need my 3 minutes of my life back, right? That like I think I've been creating stuff for the internet for the last 10 years, so it never really got to me. And the thing about Reddit, and I guess because it was a decent piece of content, others were jumping to almost support it even before I could get in, right? So they were like, oh, just get off the platform, or they were just attacking that guy instead.
And so as a result of that one and the other ones that you've done, you have been trolled.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with it?
On a personal level, like I said, it's building that skin, right? I think it's almost knowing that it comes with the package, that if you reach a certain threshold of crowd who don't identify with what you've been making so far, there will be people who say that stuff. So you just got to accept it, right? But I think at the same time, there's also understanding of the ratio, right? If you put something out and you're saying that 90% of the people, including people who are your own kind of followers, are not liking it, then there's something you got to take a step back, right? So I think there's a variation of it as well.
Yeah.
So it's really going by, piece by piece and understanding. Like that's how I personally have dealt with it. But I think for a lot of young aspiring content creators, the thing that sticks out, like even after hundreds of good comments, it's just one that'll stick out, right? Almost like and when you're in the shower, when you're in the gym, that's the one you'll think of. Not the 100
That's
comments.
the one which gets you really mad.
I know, and I find that fascinating as well, because exactly like I've got hundreds of great comments. I don't even remember those. But there was that one in 2015 when someone said, like I didn't look the way that I should, or I didn't talk the way that I should, or this was a waste of their time, and that just kind of sticks out. And I find that fascinating how human brains work in highlighting that negative. And I ask this question to most, guests as well, like how do they deal with it? And I've been getting a lot of variety of answers, and yours was a good one as well. I think it's just putting it back into their court and saying, hey, why do you think that way? Let's have a civil discussion. You mentioned you're a football fan, which is awesome. Man United fan. We sure are happy about Ronaldo coming back.
That's it though for now.
I'm not going to get into too much into that stuff, but I will say that I don't know if you read about this, but Wayne Rooney, who's one of the legends of the game and of the club that we support, he used to get his kit out the night before, like before a big game, and he would sometimes wear it. If it's away jersey, he would get his away jersey. If it's home, and then he'd just lie in his bed and just visualize the game wearing that kit on a regular basis. In one of your talks or in one of your pieces of content, actually regularly, I do see that your Instagram stories, you're going to the venue a day or two before the talk happens, and you explain, oh, this is where it's going to be, this is where I'm going to stand up, these are the chairs laid out and stuff like this, almost like visualizing yourself or putting yourself. And I draw that parallel because I think you'd be able to relate, because you're a footballer, you follow football and stuff like that.
I love the parallel story you've just pulled here.
Why do you do that? And I know why Rooney does that, but why do you do that before a talk?
Familiarization. I do it because whenever I'm in front of an audience, or for anybody who's ever considering getting in front of an audience, always remember it's a privilege for people to come to listen to you and give up their time is a privilege. Prepare yourself. Get ready. Do your homework. Do your research. Understand the room. I go and understand the room because it's then a familiar place. It's not a foreign environment. I know where everything is. I know how everything works. I know where my number one fan is going to go. And so I do that as the ritual. It's part of my pre-game process now. It's part of the warm-up where I familiarize with the room. I know where everything is, so that when I step in, the shirt has been laid out. The boots have had their studs screwed on correctly. Do we still screw studs in?
I don't think so. I think
they come? Yeah. That shows how old school I am. Everything is prepared. so that when I step into that room in a week or in a few days' time, I'm ready. And I don't have to go through the familiarization from day one. If I can't get into the room, for example, in the next few weeks, I'm traveling around the state speaking. If I can't get in, I will ask them to take a video of the room and send the video to me.
Wow. It's almost like trying to bring as much as you can into your controllables.
Spot on.
Right.
How much can I control?
Yeah.
What's in my control? And I know if I understand the layout of the room, I can control where I stand, where the chairs go, where I plug in my fan. I know what my space to move around is in. I can then start to picture, if that's my space and that's the audience, how much do I have to walk? I don't like standing still. I like to walk. And so knowing all this in my head, I then practice my talk with all of that in mind.
Wow. Biggest pet peeves in public speaking. What are some things you cringe at when you see when you are an audience and something you look at, whether it's content creation or digitally or physically on stage? Like, what's something you go like, oh God, not this shit again, right?
Pet peeves. If it's on video,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to break this into a few categories.
Sure.
If it's on video, somebody grabs their phone and wants to record a video. A pet peeve is when someone grabs their phone and starts with, "Hi guys, I just wanted to quickly jump on and say." If you just wanted to quickly jump on and say something, say it. Why do you need to pull your phone out and say, "Hi guys, I just wanted to quickly jump on today and say," you've just wasted 5 seconds of my time. On stage, when somebody starts and says, "I prepared for this overnight," or "I really haven't had much time to prepare for my talk today," I think to myself, even if that's the case, don't tell us that. Because we're giving up our time to listen to you, and now you're telling me I'm going to listen to somebody who's unprepared.
Right. Almost like a disrespect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if, and it's happened to me where I've been called the day before and I've been asked to present the next day, I will prepare as much as I can in the time I have. I will never start by telling the audience, "I've had less than 12 hours to prepare for this." Don't say that. And also, when somebody ums and ahs a lot.
How much of it is acceptable, if at all?
10% of the level we currently do is acceptable.
Okay.
I don't think there's a place for umming and ahhing at all. I rarely do it. I consciously stop myself from doing it. And if ever I do, I kick myself, because when you remove them, it adds so much gravitas in your delivery and how you come across to somebody. We say and ah because we're rushing. And when we do that too much, can not only be annoying, it damages credibility in what we say.
Takes away from the actual content of the talk.
It does. And I ask myself, does that person really know what they're talking about? Why do they seem so unsure? And that's never a nice question to ask.
So the ums and ahs, and also the, "I haven't had time to prepare for this."
I haven't had time to prepare for this.
That part's interesting. Because you just mentioned, a few minutes ago about feeling the privilege to deliver, right? And I think to serve, and when you're saying that you don't have the time or you didn't prepare for this well enough, you're basically not caring about, then I think when you flip it to the idea that, I have, and I don't know if you know Seth Godin, but he's one of the biggest marketers in the world. I remember him mentioning something like, think that you're blessed to serve an audience. And I think once you have that mindset, your work will just shine because you're doing your best work every day.
Every single time I'm in front of an audience, this is in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Whilst I didn't prep for this in terms of questions. I prepped my mind for this conversation today. I've coming here in shorts today is my way of prepping, because I want to be in a loose shirt, so I'm comfortable. I want to do this conversation justice by being comfortable, by adjusting the fan, by doing the things I can to prepare myself, telling you that I feel I'm going off track now. Can you please pull me back on track? I understand that I might be doing things which are not audience friendly, and I don't want to be doing that, because it's not about me. It's about the people who listen to this.
Yeah. You've built a fairly good business over the last few years. How hard has it been for you to build a business from scratch? Especially because you know, first of all, this isn't something you have been doing. As you mentioned, you used to be, you worked for Coca-Cola as an account manager.
Yeah, I did work for Coke for 6 years, and then I spent 9 years in the commercial construction industry.
Right. So very, you know, very sales focused or account management focused kind of roles, and then moving into jumping straight. I remember you said that on Friday you quit, on Monday you started, you know, I'm a public speaker, right? And which is, you know, fucking awesome. But that whole idea of that shifting your mindset and building a business, how hard has it been for you from then on?
Most people see the nice shiny photos on social media. Very few people see how many times I've been rejected. Very few people see the sleepless nights. Very few people see the doubt, the stress, the anxiety, the pressure. Very few people understand what I went through when I lost 90% of my work with the pandemic. What's it been like? It has been really hard. However, I'm passionate about it, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. We hear the word passion a lot, do we not? How many people are passionate about the things that they do? Please raise your hands. I'm doing some work with a client at the moment. I can't name who this person is. However, he taught me what the word passion means. If I was to ask you, what does the word passion mean? What comes to your mind?
Isn't the object or the thing that I'm passionate about, or
the word passion? So you are passionate about content creation. What does the word passion mean to you?
I think it's a feeling for me. It's just whenever I want to do something that I'm really quote unquote passionate about, it's this burning desire of creating something. Yeah,
there's a burning desire, there's a joy, there's a love about it. Yeah. The word passion, I learned, comes from a Latin term which means to suffer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. When I say I'm passionate about the work I do, I've suffered so much, and I love that I've suffered, because I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
No, of course.
Think back to the movie The Passion of the Christ.
Mel Gibson?
Yeah. What happened to Christ?
I haven't seen it, but I know the end.
He suffered. He suffered. So the word passion is derived from a Latin term which means to suffer. Right. So when I say I'm passionate about public speaking, it's because I'm prepared to suffer for it.
You know, it obviously takes a lot of well-organized lifestyle, and obviously you have a big routine that I see. That you wake up certain parts of the day, you go to the gym religiously, and all that sort. And that means that you do have a very disciplined approach to your entire craft, to your life. How do you build that discipline?
There is no easy answer to this. You simply need to do it. My discipline started from the gym. The first day I went, my body hurt so much, I never wanted to go back. And I went back. And it hurt the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And I still went back. And then I realized if I'm going to put on muscle, I need to eat. That means I can't eat the foods I really like. I need to eat boring foods. Boiled chicken, rice, steamed vegetables, fish, lentils, eggs. I can't just eat all this stuff. I need to weigh it and time it and understand what my blood type is and how it fits into my blood type. I need to understand the split of my macros and how they equate to the amount of food that I can consume on certain days. I need to then understand my sleeping pattern so that I haven't overslept or underslept and how it ties into muscle recovery. I then have to understand how many hours I need to put in every day to practice my fluency. I can't compromise on these things. And so you build discipline by choosing to be disciplined. You can't be disciplined if you feel it's Friday night. Maybe I'll have a night off and I'll go party with my friends and I'll write the weekend off. Of course you can.
Yeah,
you can still be disciplined and do that. Of course you can. However, it's making that choice and then understanding that you have the flexibility to make that choice at any time you want to. So I can very easily go out tonight and party if I want to. I'm going to train.
Right.
And I make that choice because I've been doing it for years now. I've built the discipline to do it for years. So I know if I go out tonight, I won't party, I won't drink because I'll be at the gym tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So you choose to build the discipline. There is no straightforward answer to it.
I want to just briefly touch on mental health in certain ways. This is something I was thinking just yesterday as well. You know how for most people, if they don't feel up to the mark on certain days, they do not necessarily have to show it at work, or they can kind of sulk at the corner if if it's a desk job, or for a lot of people, especially who are either customer facing or content creators or public speakers. If you do have an off day, you still have to put that show on, right? Like you still have to go through that entire process despite having a bad day. How do you tackle those days personally? Do you, of course, everybody has those ruts or blocks. How do you, again, overcome, or if at all, like what's your process?
You can't overcome those. You'll always have them. I tell people.
That's awesome.
Not this afternoon, my lunch today, I said to Beth, my friend, for this week, my stutter's been quite bad. For our conversation today, I'm working very hard to stay as fluent as I can. Much harder than what I normally work. I told Beth today, I sent her a text saying, I might be bad over lunch, is that okay? She said, of course it is. I didn't tell you that because I didn't want you to feel in any way that I can't go through with the podcast today. I will tell people now.
You, by the way, have been fantastic.
I will, thank you. I will tell my clients, I will tell people I'm seeing my head's not right, my stutter's bad, or I'll take a self-care day. I won't do anything. I'll have a self-care day, and I'll go to the gym. I will exercise. That's my way of feeling better, is I will train. Some people might choose to read a book or watch some TV or go for a walk. You can do all of it. My go-to, gym, food, water. I'll watch a couple of TED Talks. Spend time with my wife. Piss her off.
Do you think doing, telling others or being very transparent about, feeling certain ways can make you seem vulnerable? And because a lot of people do want to have that hard-hitting kind of exterior.
It can. However, there's a strength to vulnerability. There's a strength to it. Right. And if you can demonstrate your vulnerability by owning it, not letting it own you, owning it, being honest about it, it's fine. It's absolutely okay to have a bad day and feel this way. We're human, we all do. Sulking about it and using it as an excuse to feel sorry or putting that onto somebody else for them to feel sorry about you, there's a different feeling which comes with that. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and of course, I think there's that clinical side of things which we're not touching on, Brown.
No,
this is more
of course,
of the day-to-day not feeling up to the mark.
Yeah. So I hope my earlier comment didn't offend anybody. However, if you're not up to the mark day to day, think about number one. You are number one. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't function.
It's that old airplane. You got to put the mask on yourself first.
If you can't take care of number one, I say this to my wife. My wife is my number one. Actually, no. Manchester United is my number one.
There we go.
My wife is my number two.
That's
I love you, sweetheart. My queen. I tell her, if I don't look after number one, I can't look after her.
So
I must look after me. That means I do my routine. I train. I eat. I do the things that people take the piss out of me for. They call me a robot. My wife calls me a robot. And I'll tell her, no problem. I function that way. If I function well, I can function for us. And I tell her to do the same thing.
What is a good piece of talk to you? What is a quality talk?
Big question. Somebody who tells a well-crafted story that has been delivered to tick left and right brain with a combination of body language, eye contact, vocal variety, pausing, with two solid anchor points, a good sense of position and directional movement, no notes.
Wow.
Not being behind a leg turn, removing all barriers, and through all that, making you feel like you are the only person in the room.
I love the last bit. That's really cool. The future of public speaking, do you think it's only going to get bigger and better in terms of the volume of audiences, or do you think people will go more towards the digital space, or do you think both will kind of keep growing?
Both will grow. I think the digital space will absolutely grow. I've had more digital requests than I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll grow. It's faster. You don't pay airfares or accommodation.
Do you personally feel, which one do you enjoy more?
In person.
In person, yeah. I thought
of
so
course.
Too.
Prefer in person. However, can I deliver online? Of course. Will it be the same experience? No. Will it make you feel something? Yes. Because I know how to change myself online. I know how to take it from a presentation to a conversation. Both will continue to grow, and public speaking will always be something people around the world not need. That's not the word. It'll always be something that people will always enjoy going to watch a good public speaker.
Right.
People will always enjoy a TED Talk.
No, that makes sense. And I think historically as well, we've always seen in the Roman times the orator on the town hall.
Orator. On that note, we love stories.
Yeah.
Human beings love stories. Public speaking and storytelling
Hand in hand.
are one. We will always love storytelling. And so as long as storytelling lives, which I think it will live on until the end of time, public speaking will live.
Brilliant. Personal goal in 5 years.
Personal goal in 5 years. I would love to share the stage with my church, with Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow. That'd be awesome.
I'm fascinated by his mindset.
Oh, dude, he's
a beast. That's a whole different conversation. I'm fascinated by his mindset. So whether it's the stage or having a conversation with him like this or online or in person, doesn't matter how it is, I want to be able to do that. And I also would love the opportunity to interview some of the world's best storytellers, facilitate and interview some of the world's best storytellers. So I have a 5-year goal to speak on stage with some very credible people. However, a more grounded goal and a human goal. My sister and my parents have never seen me speak. They've never seen me live and in action. And I've always said the day they can see me speak live, if Chatterbox was to end that day, I'd be happy.
Finally, for someone who wants to walk the path of becoming a public speaker, what are 3 actionable steps that they can do from scratch? Somebody who hasn't done it, and this can be a molded answer as well for someone who's creating content and wanting to present to a bigger audience.
1, know what you want to talk about. Have a very clear idea of what you want to talk about and design a talk around it. So whether it's a video for a minute or a presentation for 20 minutes, know exactly what you want to talk about. That's 1. 2, and I'm going to steal this line from thought leaders, speak for free to speak for a fee. Be prepared to do something at no cost so that the next day you can speak for a fee. And 3, always be prepared for rejection. Be prepared for negativity and for criticism, and work with that criticism so you can mold your talk or your piece of content into something which is better than it was yesterday.
Shil, Mr. Shanghavi, Chatterbox, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. My pleasure.
Hopefully you'll get some time to relax.
I'm going to now. I'm going to relax a little bit.
And
I don't have much time, so I am.
All right, we'll end it there.
All right, man. Thanks.